You are listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode 118 for August 30th, 2017. I'm your host, Chris Webster. On today's show, we're talking to Acacia Berry, the founder of Archaeological Analytics. She tells us why, as CRM archaeologists, we need to have a great website, share data, and be better digital stewards. So charge up your tablet, because the CRM Archaeology Podcast starts right now. Okay, welcome to the show, everyone. Joining me today are, well, nobody, because it's the field season and it's summertime, and everybody's out working and doing things and making good archaeology and hopefully doing right by everything they're doing. So it's just me today, but I've got a fantastic interview. But before I get to that, I've got to promote real fast. This is a couple weeks after they debuted as this show airs, so hopefully you've already got them. But if you don't, new APN stickers are out. We've got they're all these little 2-inch by 2-inch, basically like icon stickers. They're the same icons we use in our shows and our podcasts. And they're great. And I think there's like 13 or 14 of them. I didn't do all the shows, and I will eventually, but it's really just a money thing. It was a few $100s just to do this first run of these stickers. So once we sell some of these, we'll get the other shows that don't come out so often. We'll get those shows done too. But these are most of the, every 2 week shows, the more consistent ones, and the ones that have the biggest audiences. So go to the arcpodnet.com/shop and pick those up. They're $2 a piece. The APN one is $3, and go from there. So also, because I've let my pool of archaeologists that are co-hosts for this show dwindle a little bit as people naturally move on and do other things, I'm putting a call out for anybody that's interested in co-hosting the show. The responsibilities are pretty light. We record every 2 weeks at 9 a.m. on Sunday. That might change in the future, but right now that's our recording time. The primary reason is because one of the co-hosts is in Scotland, so he's with the time change and trying to get things done during the week. It's just this is the best day for that. So your responsibilities will be try to show up every other Sunday at 9 a.m. Obviously, you can't make all of them, but try to show up to most of them and help discuss new show topics, and help find interviews. And all this is stuff you're probably doing normally. You just don't think about it. Just the stuff that you see coming in your day-to-day life. Say, hey, we should talk about that on the podcast. Bring it up and be familiar with digital tools as well. We use Skype extensively. That's how we record on primarily. We use Slack as a team communication device where we discuss things in the background. And then we use Trello to help organize the show and show notes and things like that. You wouldn't be using Trello as much, but Slack for sure. Absolutely. That's the primary communication because I don't use email anymore as much as I possibly can because email's terrible. But anyway, if you're interested, send me an email, chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com, or contact me on all the socials that we're probably connected on anyway. And even if you're only mildly interested and just want to talk about it and see a little more about what would be involved, feel free to do that. We'll set up a time. We can have a Skype call and check your setup. You don't need a fancy microphone either. It would help if you had, some kind of microphone. You can pick up the ATR 2100 on Amazon for like $70, and it's a great mic. You can use it for other things too. Anyway, let's get to the show. Again, if you want to do that, that's great. Send me an email, contact me on the socials, and we'll go from there. But for now, I had a fantastic conversation last week as we record this at the end of July with a woman who's got a new company and newish company. I just started really kind of paying attention to what's going on over there and decided to reach out and have a conversation with her, and it was great. So I thought, well, we need to get you on this show, and also we're going to get her on the Archaeotech podcast to have a little more technical discussion about what we're going to talk about today. So go ahead and check that one out too. It's probably out same time-ish as the CRM Archaeology podcast, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be episode 59 if we can pull that together, so you can look for that. Otherwise, just search for Archaeological Analytics on the arcpodnet.com website, and you'll find it. But for now, let me welcome to the show Acacia Berry. How's it going?
Hi.
All right, Acacia. Well, that's great. Well, welcome to the show. It's great having you on. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is, and then how that led into archaeological analytics.
Sure. I began my career 15 years ago, I guess, as a Mayanist, working in Belize and Mexico for a very long time, for about 8 years, undergrad and grad school. And then I left grad school and wanted to pursue more methodological activities. I didn't know what that was at first. And it led me to focusing a lot of my work on analyzing material culture. And that really developed during my tenure at the American Museum of Natural History, and then later on at the Museum of the City of New York via Landmarks Preservation Commission in New York City. So I spent the last 6 years learning New York City material culture, and then wanted to open that up a little bit to learning about all material culture and realizing that there wasn't a digital resource or even a book resource, a recent book resource that kind of focused on identifying artifacts, dating artifacts from the U.S. specifically. Some exports, we do have a few resources out there that focus on your English exports specifically, right? But when it comes to American manufacturing, pre-industrial, during the industrial period and post-industrial, the information is kind of sparse. And so the biggest thing was to create it not just in book form or in journal form, but to also create it in digital form, because this is the first thing that we do right in the 2017s as a culture. Google everything. And I know everyone is secretly Googling. I know archaeologists are secretly Googling, and we all know what comes up, right? joespoints.com. Who Joe is, I have no idea. We don't know. But, that's a problem. And so this was my way of putting our work out on the web, where this is like the initial stage of searching for information.
Exactly. And I like that because you're right. I mean, I might have 10 books behind me on the shelf that can help me date this bottle, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Google it. And I'm going to see what's going on rather than search through all those books if it's something I don't know already. Because there are scattered resources out there for finding stuff. The SHA, SHA bottle guide, is actually pretty good, but it's not really that good of a website. I hope somebody from the SHA is listening, because it's not set up very well. Yeah.
And I would love to work with them to fix that.
Yeah, because we need stuff. Yeah. We need online resources that are built more for the way that people actually use the internet these days, and they need to be searchable. They need to be, and I don't know if somebody would be citing archaeological analytics necessarily, but it'd be a good place to start to search for something, and then maybe as it gets crowdsourced, references could be on there, and then they could cite the primary references.
So the way we are set up, we are just the moderators of everything. Right. We are not the experts. And I made sure that, I set it up that way. You're not getting information from us. You're getting information from you guys, right? Because you guys are the experts. And I push that a lot. You guys have the information. You guys did the excavations. You guys wrote the reports. It's just no one sees them. And so our job as Archaeanalytics is to make sure people see them. But there's, technical elements to that. And that's what we deal with. We don't deal with actually writing, brand new content. And and that's loose a little bit. But, if you want to look up, so-and-so kind of bottle, you're not getting that information directly from Archaeanalytics. You're getting the information from all the people who wrote dissertations about it, wrote journal articles about it, wrote reports about it. That's how we set it up.
Okay. Now, I want to get into some of this a little more on the Archaeotech podcast that we do, but I think for our listeners, just so they can understand, again, where the information is coming from and the quality of the information, you said you're the moderator. So when somebody sends you something and puts up the information, how do we know that's correct? Do other people have to verify that, or how's that work?
Right. So we verify everything. And because we are a digital/tech company, the number one way we verify things is via LinkedIn. So I even require my interns to have LinkedIn accounts because this is the number one way we verify, right? People's work history. And, that's what's current right now. You can do a resume. Everyone loves that. But at some point, someone's going to look you up on LinkedIn. And even though RPA exists, not everyone is an RPA, and that's fine, right? You also have students, you have, people who are postdocs, whatever, but everyone is on LinkedIn. So that's the number one thing we do is require people to put in their LinkedIn information so we can see who they're connected to, who they've worked with, their kind of, a little bit of their background history in archaeology. And the next thing we look at, and this is not for all cases, but for some of the features on our platforms, we also encourage people to upload whatever document they have written about or written on, whether it's in dissertation form, if it's in a thesis, if it was a academic article, poster, whatever you have written. And I do that so that we cover, because there's students out there who have learned things and who are knowledgeable about things. And there's people who aren't, tenure track professors who are knowledgeable about things. There's CRM people who have written reports about, 18th century buttons. You know what I mean? We know that. And so I want to highlight all those different versions of authorship. But once again, that's easy to do because there should be some sort of public record of you writing something, whether it's on Google Scholar or, with the state, there should be some kind of public record in addition to your LinkedIn. So those are the two biggest factors that we look at in terms of identifying who's a quote unquote professional. And that term professional is loose in some ways, but we want to distinguish ourselves from people who are, what's the word that they use for people who are just interested?
Oh, like enthusiasts or...
Enthusiasts, yes.
Yeah,
we want to distinguish
totally.
ourselves from enthusiasts.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to geek out on LinkedIn just a little bit because I'm so happy to hear you say that. I have been using LinkedIn pretty extensively. I've got a pretty well filled out profile, although LinkedIn's BS algorithms keep telling me I'm like 90% complete. It's like, screw you, LinkedIn. I've got so many things on here. You just keep adding stuff and then telling me I'm not complete. Yeah. But anyway, that's another thing.
Well, LinkedIn is very messy in terms of their platform. They are not, and I don't know why, because I'm sure they're getting a lot of money coming in from, people upgrading. But, not everyone can be Facebook, I guess. But
right.
So, in terms of functionality, like their app is a mess. It doesn't even function. It's not functional. Their company page situation is also very messy. It's still a number one source for verifying people's credentials. So I rely on that.
Here's one of the way I've used LinkedIn in the past, and if I need somebody in the future, I'm going to do the same thing. When I have opening positions for jobs, now I have such small small numbers of people that I typically need because I don't try to do a lot of big field work, and I try not to do it consistently throughout the year. So usually I can find somebody I already know and I've already vetted. Right. Either I've worked with them in the past or something. But if I have to go off the street and ask for somebody, I don't want them to send me a PDF of their CV, a PDF of their cover letter, a PDF of their references. I don't care. I don't have time to search through PDFs, especially poorly formatted PDFs, although that is one way to tell if somebody knows how to use a computer is to say, what kind of file format do I get? What does it look like? Things like that. So they see that. But anyway, I want your LinkedIn public profile link. And that'll tell me, okay, you understand the value of LinkedIn. You understand the value of being a professional. You can organize your page because I know how customizable LinkedIn can be too. You can move different sections. You can add stuff in. And I want to see that. But also, more importantly, the references. And this isn't the endorsements that you see at the top, which I haven't seen in a while. I think they've kind of slowed down on that little thing. But the thing where it says, "Oh, does Chris Webster know about archaeology?" Yes, that's stupid. Nobody cares.
Right.
But the references at the bottom where you have to say who you worked with, where you worked with them, what time period you worked with them on, and then publicly endorse, and it shows up on your page and it shows up on their page. I think this person is great and you should hire them. That is the best reference you could possibly get. Because if I call your references, they're going to be all bullshit references of people that, it might be your brother and I won't even know it, from
it probably
Joe
is.
Blow Archaeology firm. Yeah.
It probably is.
So anyway, I love LinkedIn for that, and it's great. We're having this conversation, and I'm diving into LinkedIn a little bit and stuff like that because it shows. I think it shows your passion for really understanding how to use social media, not just use social media, but how to use it. And that goes a long way toward speaking a little more about what archaeological analytics is and the services you provide. So we've got just a couple minutes left in this segment. So why don't you give us a quick overview of the services you provide, and then we'll dive into them in segment 2.
Okay. So we, as Archaeological Analytics, recognize the importance of having a web presence in the late 2000 teens. This wasn't necessarily a thing 10 years ago, but it is now, especially within the last 5 to 7 years. It's almost impossible to survive as a business. And, in CRM, you're a business. It's almost impossible to survive without having a strong web presence. This is the first thing that anyone looks for. No one's looking for you in the phone book. No one's, having meetings and conferences that, that's not as strong as it used to be anymore. You reach more people when you are on the web. So we have provided 2 things for archaeologists. We provide them a network so that they can connect with other people on the web and social media, and that can help you reach out to certain people or show you what's happening in the social world and encourage you to do the same. And we also offer 2 platforms for public outreach. One of them is Open Artifact, and this is where you can showcase and promote your research as an archaeologist. And the other one is American Artifacts. And that one is a place where literally you can just talk about the cool things that you're doing in the field currently, in the lab currently, little snippets about what that particular artifact represents on your site or in American history as a whole. So those are the 2 things that we do. And it's, once again, to give yourself a better platform on the web, whether you want to build your own website or, build your own social media accounts or not. And it's also to promote American archaeology so that we can survive as a field, because we already know cultural heritage is being threatened on a daily basis. So, so those are the 2 things that we do. Yep.
Okay. Well, that's a good place to stop for this segment. And we'll be back in just a second for segment 2 where we dive into those.
This network is supported by our listeners. You can become a supporting member by going to arcpodnet.com/members and signing up. As a supporting member, you have access to high-quality downloads of each show and a discount at our future online store, and access to show hosts on a members-only Slack team. For professional members, we'll have training shows and other special content offered throughout the year. Once again, go to arcpodnet.com/members to support the network and get some great extras and swag in the process. That's arcpodnet.com/members.
Okay, we're back. So I want to go over some of the things you just said at the end of the last segment. So the first thing you mentioned was needing a strong web presence. And I want to know what that means to you. What does it mean to have a strong web presence for, let's say an individual archaeologist, like somebody, whether they're academic or CRM or whatever, but also maybe like a CRM firm or an environmental firm. What does it mean to have a strong web presence?
Okay, so the way the internet works these days, the internet has become a place where people connect and build relationships, and that's really important to understand. Once again, the phone book doesn't exist anymore. The conference is, has its limitations. And the web, not only can you reach people within your field, but you can reach a much, much larger audience, like in terms of thousands and millions of people that are, beyond your state, beyond your city. And that's a really important concept to understand. Like I said, archaeology, no matter how, no matter if you're a researcher or an institution or a CRM firm, archaeology is a business. If you are a CRM firm, your business is securing contracts. If you are an institution, your business is, securing donations. If you are, a lab in a university, your business, may be securing volunteers. Any one of those things, any one of those situations, the best way to not only promote what your business is, but to also reach enough people so that, it can actually benefit you is the web. And so building a web presence specifically involves your ranking on Google, which is a very complicated topic, which we can talk about on another podcast. And it also involves social media. Google rankings are very, very hard to do, but social media is a very easy thing to do. I bring up Google rankings because Google rankings is affected by your web page, if you have one, and if people are if you have high traffic towards it. Blogs, same thing. If you have high traffic going towards that, and so your ranking depends on what people are searching constantly. Are people searching for, just archaeology in general? Where does your website fit in that kind of search? If people are searching for experts in blah 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 history, where does your website function in that search? So that's what Google rankings are about. And that's okay. If you just wanted to put a website up that had, this is our company, these are our, pricings, this is our schedule, and call it a day, that's fine. But social media is a little bit more frequent. It's a little bit more, it has a little bit more, it has a faster reach. And you don't need Google to help you necessarily. You just need hashtags. You need to follow the right people, little things like that. And you need to have good content. I think that's probably the most important. Right. And as archaeologists, no matter which realm you work in, we always have good content, right? We always have good content.
Absolutely.
We work on amazing sites. People love looking at archaeological sites, especially when there's archaeologists out there doing their daily work. People love artifacts, especially, unfortunately, especially Native American artifacts.
Right.
And just things that look cool. And I am a huge, I'm a little skeptic about things that look cool because, we are very much about context. But if you can grab them with the visuals and then throw in the context, that's perfect. Like I said, we have great content for social media and for the web. So building a web presence is giving yourself some kind of authorship in a subject, giving yourself a place for people to reach you immediately, for finding you immediately, and one of the biggest ones is it's the cheapest way to advertise. And as a business, this should be number one, right? You should constantly be promoting your business. Like I said, if it's in, securing contracts, no problem. If it's in securing volunteers, if it's securing nonprofit funding, all of this can be done a lot easier if you have a strong presence, if people know who you are and where they can find you on the web specifically. And the other big thing is that it builds relationships not only with the public, but with your colleagues, with other institutions, with other companies, with other organizations, with other, forms of media, newspapers, magazines. These are the things we should be shooting for, right? If we want to protect and preserve our jobs and cultural heritage, we should be shooting for, getting as much public media as possible. And like I said, social media is a very easy way to do it, and it's fast. But newspapers, magazines, they love reaching out. That, in fact, this is how they find things. They actually scour the internet. Social media sites or websites that scour we all know, we follow a few of them, right? Top animal videos, whatever, cool. We all follow those websites that scour the internet and are aggregators of the internet, of cool things on the internet. Those are also very important platforms to be featured on. So we need to rethink what it means to be important and relevant. We need to rethink that. Being relevant is no longer everyone knowing you in your own academic circle, or everyone knowing you in your own social circle as an archaeologist. Being relevant now is a much bigger concept. And it's beyond your city, it's beyond your state, it's beyond the US. I think it's important. It's important to consider.
Well, the interesting thing about the Google ranking is, and I've done this before, but I just did a couple quick searches while you were talking about that. And, you type in archaeologist Nevada, archaeology Nevada, archaeologist Reno, archaeology Reno, and literally nothing comes up related to companies or people that could actually provide that service for you. There's some BS websites that come up that say urgent jobs opening for archaeologists in Nevada. That's never a thing. If it's not on Shovel Bums, it doesn't count.
I don't even know what that is. It's probably spam.
I know. Exactly. Shovel Bums or Arc Fieldwork. If it's not on one of those two websites, it's probably not a job. But
right.
And then I typed in Cultural Resource Management Nevada, and that page was almost all companies that work here in Reno, and they'll at least have an office in Reno or Nevada or something like that. And but the problem is, you have a client that's looking for somebody. They might not know to look for cultural resource management. Yeah, they're going to look for archaeologists or archaeology. So if your SEO is not set up correctly to reference archaeology or archaeologist, then it's going to be hard for people to find you. And I think, like you said, having a strong Google ranking, things like that, it's smart to just Google certain terms that you think your clients will be looking for and see if you show up. Like, for example, my own company doesn't even show up because I actually try to focus on other things. So I'm kind of glad it doesn't show up when somebody wants to find an archaeologist in Reno because I'm not really looking for those kind of clients. But if I type in archaeology podcast on the front page of Google here, all but maybe about three entries are referring to the Archaeology Podcast Network. The top one is the APN, and then the rest are podcasts on the APN. There's a couple other podcasts, one of which I know is not even around anymore, which is amazing. They're still showing up on the first page. I mean, it's from the BBC pretty much, and they haven't put out a new show in like 3 years. But they have great SEO, and the stuff's still up on their website, and you can still access it, and it still shows up on a Google search right on the front page. Yeah. So,
and this is the first thing people are looking for. This is the first thing people are looking for. So, as a business, you should always be thinking like, what are people looking for, and how can we make sure that they see us? And this is the best way of doing it. So, a web presence is an investment into your future. It's not some whimsical thing, where there's filters of cats that exist. It's not Snapchat, and that exists, but it's also the number one place that people look for information, and that's whether they're looking for information, to provide business for you, or looking for information in terms of understanding, some kind of concept or research or something like that. This is the number one place. And so we should be putting all of our energies into making sure that we show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially looking at the new people coming out today. I mean, the people coming out of college that just graduated in May are, if they did the whole thing, high school and then college, then they're probably 22, 23 years old. I mean, they were barely born in the last century, barely. And in not too many years, they're going to have been born, in the 2000s. And these people were born with a smartphone in their hand. They were born with a tablet in their hand, practically. And they know these things. So when they see a company that's hiring and they go Google that company, because it's the first thing they're going to do is Google that company, and then they're going to Google the person that's hiring them. And then they're going to, look at all their socials, look at all these things and say, well, do I want to work for this company that has, their pictures of dusty bookshelves and a website that looks like it's on GeoCities and and they don't even know what that is, but they see it. And it's just a website that says, hey, here's some of the projects we've worked on, call us and pay us. That's basically what the website says. And there's no information about people. Because I think part of this, and let's see what you think about this, because I'm pretty sure I already know the answer, but people seem to, especially in CRM archaeology, academics seem to understand the value in their personal brand, because they are their own careers. Even if you're working for a university, your name is really the cachet that you've got in the world, because it's all about your name and who you've worked for and who you studied under and things like that. So it's all about your name and who you are.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. And I think academics just inherently get that because of the system that they're within. But CRM archaeologists, in 99% of cases, want to remain anonymous. I should publish a list of the Instagram names of CRM archaeologists out there. It is insane, like the names that they come up with. And then you click into their profile and it barely says anything about them. And then there's no pictures of them on their Instagram page. They want to remain completely anonymous because they're paranoid of getting fired for doing the wrong thing. So one of those ways they fight that paranoia is to just not have a web presence. And I think that attitude, as it's come through from the old guard, that was, as these social media things were getting more popular, the old guard is saying, well, okay, I see all these new resources out there. Don't put out any artifact pictures. Don't put out any landscape pictures. We don't want looters. That's what their big mantra is. And now because of that, everybody's paranoid and nobody puts anything up with any sort of attribution whatsoever.
And that's something that our company focuses on. I've worked in CRM, I worked in museums, I've worked in academia. So I have a great understanding of what it means to protect your work. And that gets redefined in various ways. But in terms of CRM, the platforms that we have set up specifically, in fact, we have an ad that says share, and a picture of a pot and not the files. Because
I like that. I saw that.
That's the fear, right? And I really want to talk about that. That's the fear, that people are going to search through your files or search through those reports with this sensitive information and loot. Whereas if you just posted a photo of, a sherd or, whatever you're finding in the field, and all you did was geotag your state, no one knows where you have control over what kind of information you release when you're on the web. You have control of that. So there is no way that you could be doing something wrong or illegal unless you start selling, unless you start pinpointing exactly where you are, unless you start, publishing, those records. And I want to talk about TDAR, because TDAR was the first digital database to come into existence for archaeologists, right? TDAR's whole concept was, digitize your records, and that could be, and the definition of records range between photos, field notes, field pictures, field crew of 2008, whatever, and in some cases your reports. And you can see in TDAR, there was a lot of hesitation. And even to this day, when you go on TDAR, there's still a weird hesitation between what people want to release and what people don't want to release. In TDAR, you have the option to upload records and then lock them, keep them from being viewed publicly, which I'm not sure why they're even visible in the first, why have them visible on the web in the first place? And that shows you like there's still this fear of someone's going to find out, where our sites are and destroy everything. You can do that literally with just photos. You can protect yourself with just photos. You can engage with people with just photos. You can, promote your services with just photos without telling them any kind of locational information, without telling them, the worth or value of something. You can do this. People are very, very interested in factoids in history. So if you even went down that route, you have a photo of, a bottle with a great maker's mark and just talked about that maker's mark, that's it. That's what people really want to know. There's only a few, I'm not saying that looters aren't in large numbers, but there's only very few people out there who are really, who really want to find out where you are and will put all that energy into it. But once again, you have control over what you say and what you don't say. Social media gives you that control. So it's this fear of being exposed or doing something illegal or doing the wrong thing, according to SHPO, is almost non-existent at this point. You can protect your work and still be present. And one of the things that in fact with CRM that I want to promote is, I know we take photos of artifacts for reporting. We do. And no one sees those photos, right? In fact, they turn into these weird black and white, gritty images after they've been copied and scanned.
Photocopied.
Some SHPOs do release their reports, but very few. But most SHPOs don't release their reports. However, there's really great photos of diagnostic artifacts that never get seen. There's great photos of diagnostic artifacts that no one knows about, even within their own city and state. And that becomes a problem as a CRM firm when you're trying to, write reports at a rapid rate and you're not even sure what's happening with this artifact. Like, did other people find this? Who found this? All this other stuff. So if we just focus on the key thing of artifacts as our way to connect with each other, it's a safe bet. It's a safe bet, right? Because we're not talking about stratigraphy.
Right.
We're not talking about your locational data. We're not talking about GIS because that's the dangerous stuff, right? The GIS coordinates. Those are easy to track.
Exactly.
But, exactly. As to where you found that, bottle with the cool maker's mark, most of the public they don't care. They don't even understand how we do what we do. Most of the public doesn't care about that. Most CRM firms, like I said, they just want to know, what have you found that could possibly help us get through our work faster in terms of identification and quick research. So there's ways to separate locational data from the information we can get from material culture, and all of our platforms highlight that. We don't want your locational data. We don't want your the reports with the sensitive data connected with your photos. We just want the photos. We just want the photos and the historical information or the prehistoric information that comes with that particular object. That's it.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to take our final break here, and then when we come back, I have a short comment about looters because I think we're empowering looters, and I'll comment on that when we get back. Just a second.
Okay.
Hey, podcast fans, check out the Arc365 podcast at www.arcpodnet.com/Arc365. That's ARCH365 for your daily dose of archaeology. Each episode is less than 15 minutes long, and we have some great guests recording about awesome archaeology. We also try to throw in some definitions and basic archaeological information. So, check out the 365 Days of Archaeology podcast only in 2017 at www.arcpodnet.com/Arc365 today. Find us also on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Music by typing Arc365 into the search. Now back to the show. All right, we're back. And my real quick comment on looters, because I could really go an entire episode on this subject, and I think I have before, is I feel like archaeologists are empowering looters. We're empowering the illegal antiquities trade as well by I guess, I don't know what the right word is, but by like deifying artifacts or, idolizing artifacts and making artifacts the important part and not the story. And with you, by having people put pictures of artifacts up, but no other locational data, no anything like that, but maybe say something about the artifact and say, hey, this is, used like this, it dates to this, blah, 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 blah. That I think is way more important, and that takes away the power. And then also for looters, as far as I'm concerned, in 2017, halfway through 2017 even, and I'm sitting here looking at 2 3D printers and somebody using them right now, like physically, Sunday morning here in Reno, with all this data that we can collect easily in the field, I feel like we're taking the power away from the looters entirely, because I can take nearly 100% of information about an artifact. The only thing I can't do in the field right now is maybe some kind of residue analysis or some of those analyses that mean a little bit of destruction of the artifact or taking it someplace. But as far as all its morphological attribute data and things like that, I can do some quick photogrammetry with a really high quality camera that's already on my smartphone, take it with the right kind of photo board that will allow you to do, some mapping and stuff of the artifact. And then you can, within a few hours of getting back to the office, you can create a model and print it, and then have that artifact the one you just left in the desert or wherever you're at. And now if a looter or somebody just out there that doesn't know picks that up and puts it in their pocket, it's still not good, but it's not a complete loss of information either. We shouldn't concern ourselves as much with the fact that they picked it up once we've collected all the data and basically taken that power away. But then again,
information or contextual information, that's technically our bread and butter. It's not, the GIS is very cool, and, it improves the accuracy of our work, but our expertise is cultural, is talking about culture in terms of the objects that we, through the objects that we find. That's what we should be known for. That's what we should be promoting. And no one can do that but us. And we have to realize that that's our power, right? No one can talk about artifacts the way we can talk about artifacts. No one can talk about, by looking at this bottle and seeing, these features, this is what was going on in the world. No one can do that but us. And so that's one, if we want to talk about taking power back, this is one of the biggest ways we can do that. The other thing, going back to web presence, the websites that have the biggest web presence, because archaeologists are secretly Googling everything, are sites that sell antiques, right? Because they're the ones that are kind of writing, if you look up maker's marks for bottles or, let me see, some other historical artifacts.
Like ceramics and stuff.
Those websites pop up, the ones that are selling, the one, where, who knows where they got their, who knows where they got those, buttons from or whatever, those are the websites that are popping up because they understand the concept of photo and, a little dab of information, a little factoid of information. They get it. And you want to take power away from people who are selling. That's why you need to have a web presence. That's why, imagery is the biggest thing you can capitalize on, so that when people search, the website pops up and the Google the Google image pops up. Those are the top two, tabs in Google that we look at. Just the website and the image search. And so both of the American Artifacts blog, that platform, image heavy. Open Artifact, we encourage people to subscribe and upload their images. Once again, to be image heavy. When you look up whatever about, bone buttons, we pop up, not some, antique dealer from California. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what's happening. That is the reality of the situation. And that's where we're secretly getting our information from. I know because I've done it myself, because they have information. If you want to look for something quick, sometimes those antique dealers post, a quick snippet about, who William H. blah, blah, blah was, on that bottle. We should be the first in authorize, and being authors about that information, not antique dealers, not enthusiasts. So there's ways to take that power back, but we have to embrace what the internet does. We have to embrace what social media does, and then we have to be strategic about how we do it. And the best way of doing it is by images. By images.
So. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I know one of the, and I'm going to lose a whole bunch of subscribers here in about 30 seconds, but I don't care, because it's our fault that I'm going to say this statement. I think one of the best reference guides, just for sheer images, not for any other data, but for sheer images and the comprehensive nature of the reference text, is the Overstreet books on projectile points for North America. I mean, it is super comprehensive, but at the end of every entry for his projectile point is a value, and it's a price, because this is a collector's guide to these sorts of things. They want to know how much is it worth, and I'm not even sure how you assign value to some of these things. I mean, probably rarity would be my guess. How often do you find it? But they're creating their own rare market by collecting more and more of these out of the ground, which is just frustrating. And it's almost like a contest between archaeologists and collectors to see who can collect more, but for different reasons. And they accuse us of, I've got an article on my blog called I think it's called an open letter to arrowhead hunters. And I get comments on that like monthly, and it's 3.5 years old. We just talked about it on one of the old Sierra Mark podcasts. And I got people coming on there saying, like this one guy just said recently, he's like, what archaeologist doesn't festoon their house with, artifacts they've gotten off of sites? And I'm like, none of them. like I don't do that. They're not mine to keep. Yeah. Now I might have some stuff that I've gotten from just the same places they get them from like an antique store. I've got some cans because I use them as almost like a reference collection. I've created some videos and I needed these things. I wasn't going to take them off an archaeological site. I got them from places where the context was already destroyed. And anyway, we could go down that rabbit hole for a really long time. I want to talk about Open Artifact again in a second, but first, back to web presence. How exactly and how much does it cost for you to help somebody shore up their web presence and via and also what I'm wondering is if you do this, and if not, will you, because people need it, but as part of the web presence, like you said, is social media. And there are so many social media platforms out there. I mean, there's really like 4 big ones these days, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, and then probably LinkedIn, if you want to see that as social media. And I'm not even including Google Plus because, it's not 10 years ago. But anyway,
and Instagram.
I know.
I mean, there's tons.
Oh, yeah. Instagram, of course.
Yeah.
So, but I think people that don't know a lot about social media get overwhelmed by the choices, and they don't know what to put where, what's appropriate to put on what thing. And so how does your assistance to people with their web presence, how do you do that? Like, creating their websites, showing them what to put on different social media sites, and then what would that cost somebody?
Okay, so we acknowledge that one, in order to, do the most on the web, and that's website, blog, 4 or 5 social media accounts, YouTube, you forgot about that one. There's a huge, huge platform.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram are like your top 3 platforms, and Twitter, excuse me. I feel like I'm leaving one out. Those are your top 4 platforms for social media. So yeah, you have to be tech savvy a little bit. And you also have to have time. And so we are acknowledging these, at least those two groups, and then people who say, I can't, like, I don't even get it. Those are the three groups we're acknowledging. So the people who are tech savvy and have time, great. That means you're posting, and we have American Artifacts to boost your post in a sense, right? If you are already posting on social media, let us know. We have the social media directory on Archaeoanalytics website, so we can add you to that so people can know where to find you and on the web and in social media. Great. Keep going. Keep hashtagging. Go you. We also provide tips on archaeological analytics to, boost your posts. Are you putting the right hashtags? Are you, are you doing live video? All the little technical stuff, but that's for people who are very active in it. No problem. That's free for you because you're already doing what you got to do. Then there are the people, like I said, who don't have time, right? Maybe they put in some time to make a website themselves. Maybe they paid someone to make a website themselves. But when you pay people to make a website yourself, or for your company, that means that you're not updating it as often as you probably would like, right? Because you got to contact that person. But that costs money. So sometimes you wait every 6 months to do the major updates and whatnot. Right. So that costs you, developers cost money, a couple grand, out of pocket easily. There are ways to create your own website so that you can update it. But once again, you have to have patience and a little bit of a technical background, not too extensive, but a little bit of a technical background. In that case, if you're in that case, then that's where we can very much help you. American Artifacts has a sponsor post section where all you have to do is just upload a photo and a little snippet of what you're doing, right? Because updating it on your website is too much work and too much money. Updating on social media, that takes time. It does. It takes time out of your day. It takes me 3 hours to do on my social media. Then you have that as an option, and that only costs $125. If you have, if you're still in that boat of time and money factor, you have not a presentation, exhibit or some kind of event. Easy way to promote that are American Artifacts. Right now, we're slowly increasing our number of visitors, and we're at 4,000, and it's only been 5 months or less than 5 months since we've been since we've been in existence. So you've reached thousands of people within a day for only $125.
That's not bad.
So that's not bad at all. And like I said, if you're considering the money factor and the time factor, that's not bad at all. And that's just a one-time fee. We're not doing anything crazy right now for American. If you are in the boat of, I can't handle the social media, I can't handle the web, it's complicated, it's overwhelming, no problem. Like I said, we already have American Artifacts where you can just, sponsor our post. But we also have Open Artifact. And Open Artifact is basically like the social media of American archaeology. All we do is post images, and that's all it is. It's a gallery of images. Open Artifact, in fact, doesn't ask for much of context in terms of sites. Okay. So if you have old collections that have never been seen, right? If you're an institution with old collections, if you are a university lab that has stuff in boxes, and we have that as an ad, like get your stuff out of boxes. This is the easiest way to play into the concept of the image, right? Because we talked about the power of images and visuals on the web right now, especially with Google. You either do Google search for websites or you look at Google Images. This is the best way to combat any competition we have with looters and antique dealers is by, providing our own images of legally excavated artifacts. This is then Open Artifact is the easiest way of doing that. And there's two options because our space is a little bit limited. You can either, excuse me, pay $50 a month, or I forgot the yearly rate, for us to host and promote your images, or you can pay $125 a month for 50 images. Once again, to host and boost those images, so that those are the first things that people look for when any archaeologists themselves want to find 19th century bobby pins. Boop, your stuff comes up. For the public who wants to look at, I don't know why they would want to look at bobby pins, but you never know. Or for stuff like, projectile points. I know we have projectile points as archaeologists. We have all of them. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's stored somewhere. But right now, no one sees it. No one knows. And that will eventually affect your business because no one will even care about supporting it. But if you promote the stuff that you have, people will be more than likely enthusiastic about supporting your institution. And that support can, be turned into raising money for more space, raising money for preservation. All that kind of stuff can start by you investing money into your social presence. And that's what we do. This is an investment into your social presence. And it's a significantly cheap, or less costly investment than building your own stuff, because that's upkeep, that's time. That's all those things that very few archaeologists have because of the nature of our work. So we take care of that. And yeah, that's it. We have American Artifacts is updated daily. We have Instagram account that highlights people, showcasing their artifacts in the field, because there are some CRM firms and a lot of university labs that are starting to realize the power of, showing off their stuff, and no locational information is provided. So it's happening. It's happening. Yeah. It's already happening. We just need more people to jump on it so that we can become the authors of our own work. And in terms of the image gallery database, we have so many people, and we just released it last week. So this would be the second to last week of July. We have so many people interested in this. So clearly this is a need. So many people sign up for updates. So many people, we already have several subscribers. This is a need in our community that no one has addressed. Where can I go to find legit information, and look at legally excavated artifacts? How can we support ourselves in a sense? You know what I mean? And the small fee that, is required to make this happen is priceless, and especially in terms of letting go of the work and time that it would require for you to do it on your own. Not everyone has a digital database. Actually, most institutions don't have a digital database, especially in the U.S. and Canada. Yeah. In Europe, it's a whole nother thing, and that's why we solely focus on U.S. and Canada sites. But most institutions don't have a digital database. I think there's DAX and TDAR, and who else? Very few.
Yeah, not many. Open context,
very few.
I think.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. It's 2017, everybody.
I know.
Come on. So this is but be clear. DAX puts in money to keep that up. DAX puts in time. They hire people to make sure that stays current. And that requires time and money, a lot of time and money that very few people have, whereas Open Artifact is designed for everyone. It's designed for everyone who if you can't build a DAX, you go to Open Artifact. That's how that works, because it's easy. You just upload photos and that's it.
Nice. Well, I actually have a few more questions, but we're out of time. So I think as we're starting to promote the member site for Archaeology Podcast Network, this is a great opportunity for us to call this episode now and then say, if you want to hear the extended portion of this interview, I'm not sure how long it's going to go, but if you want to hear the extended portion of the interview, go to arcpodnet.com/members and sign up for a standard or pro membership, and you'll get access to bonus content and bonus interviews. So just to wrap up this episode, though, where can people find you on the internet? Where's the various places for your web presence where they can find you?
Yes. We have 3, which is crazy because I manage them all. So our main website is www.archaeological-analytics.com, and you can find all of our information, our platforms, everything on that one website. If you want to see daily updates of what people are doing in the field and in the lab, that's American Artifacts blog, and that is www.americanartifactsblog, one word, excuse me, that's totally wrong. Let me stop. Wait a minute. It's www.americanartifacts.blog. And
Okay.
Open Artifact is for anyone who wants to upload, and we also have a forum so you can talk to experts if you have questions about something that you find in the field. And we also are building quick guides so that you can date and identify your artifacts, or like commonly excavated artifacts from the field. That's on www.open-artifact.com. And we're on all 3 of those platforms are on social media, specifically Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So find us.
Awesome. Well, sounds good. Thanks for joining us. And as I said, check out the extended interview on arcpodnet.com/members. It'll be on bonus content on the left side of the page there. When you get there, there's 0 organization on that page just yet, so it's just bonus content as it comes out for every show. But the search field is fantastic. So if you search for the tag CRM Arc, or if you search Archaeological Analytics, you'll find the episode easily. It should be the only thing that comes up because that will be the only episode about this subject on that bonus content page. So definitely check that out, and thanks a lot. And also look for the Archaeotech episode about archaeological analytics coming soon as well. Thanks, everybody. That's it for another episode of the CRM Archaeology Podcast. Links to some of the items mentioned on the show are in the show notes for this podcast, which can be found at www.archaeologypodcastnetwork.com/CRM Arc Podcast. If you like the show and want to comment, please do. You can leave comments about this or any other episode on the website or on the iTunes page for the episode. You can also email me at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com or use the contact form on the podcast webpage. If you'd like us to answer a question on a future episode, email us. Use the contact form on the website or tweet your questions with the hashtag CRMArcPodcast, or you can tag @ArcPodNet in your tweet. Please share the link to the show wherever you saw it. If you share CRM archaeology-related items on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere else for that matter, be sure to use the hashtag CRMArc so the community can see and comment. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can do so on iTunes or on Stitcher Radio. You can also type the name of the podcast into your favorite podcasting app and subscribe that way. Don't forget to go over to iTunes and leave a review of the show. It helps us get noticed so more people can find our podcast and benefit from the content. Also, send us show suggestions and interview suggestions. We want this to be a resource for field technicians everywhere, and we want to know what you want to know about. Also, please consider donating to the Archaeology Podcast Network. Your donations help fund our bandwidth and contribute to our editing costs. This show is produced by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle, and was edited by Chris Webster.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archaeologypodcastnetwork.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
Thanks again for listening to this episode and for supporting the Archaeology Podcast Network. If you want these shows to keep going, consider becoming a member for just $7.99 US a month. That's cheaper than a venti quad eggnog latte. Go to arcpodnet.com/members for more info.